Okay, we are streaming live online right now to any of our members or board members that are online. Hello. This is our first town hall meeting. There might be a Donna Roberts in Labrador, maybe Stephen Mugford in Corner Brook. Hopefully, we got Sheldon and Dean in Central. And guys, if there's any technical issues, please shoot me an email. So we'll get on that right away. First, I want to give a shout out to Patrick O'Keefe here. For anybody who hasn't met Patrick yet, he's our jack of all trades at MusicNL. He's wicked deadly. He's wicked awesome. So welcome to the first town hall meeting. We plan on doing one of these every month. It's going to be based around the open mic. We're going to do a whole information session based around one open mic a month, and we're very happy to have started this initiative, and very happy to have so we're planning on moving on up at MusicNL. We are streaming online, so we're getting all super fancy, like super duper fancy. So thanks you guys for coming. Thanks everybody who's tuning in, and thanks to the ship, of course, for being awesome as always and being a great host to us. So anybody who's online who wants to write their questions in on that YouTube page, please do, and I'll ask them on your behalf. And if there's anybody online also that's having any issues, just please email me info@musicnl.ca, and we'll take care of them. So we're here to talk rates and royalties and where to get the money, and I'll pass it over to Bonnie to educate y'all. Thanks for coming.
Hi, everybody. Thanks a lot for coming down. Really appreciate it. It's pretty cold out there, so appreciate that. Like to thank Factor also for co-hosting with us, or co-sponsoring. I've sort of written this out in a tip sheet format. All the questions that have ever been asked, that anyone's ever asked me. And I'm trying to keep it simple tonight. If there's any really complicated questions, we can probably move those to music by booking an appointment or something like that. But I just want to give you guys a general overview on the types of royalties that are out there, who qualifies for what, and I've printed out sheets here on this table beside Patrick of all the different agencies and all of their contact info, so that it's really easy for you guys to just go online and have a look. With that, I'm going to start in. Royalty administration and collection can be time-consuming, but it can also be a very lucrative revenue stream, helping you to own, control, and sustain your own business. The following tips are about a wide range of popular and lesser-known royalty streams, all being collected in collection agencies and societies. They work on your behalf one of the initial sign-up. And then here are some helpful and useful information about potential royalty streams that every artist and musician should know about. The nature of the various agencies that do the collecting and the method of collection and their monetary values are beyond anyone's control and are therefore all subject to change. It is in fact the norm for these royalties to indeed change over time. Constantly remaining up to date and all adjustments and modifications is crucial to being able to continue to collect the maximum proceeds for songwriters, artists, musicians, and music companies. So the first question one would ask is, what are copyrights and what are royalties? Copyright is the protection of intellectual property, and in the music industry, that starts with the composition of a song. Royalties are a revenue stream that are generated by the license, reproduction, performance, broadcast, or print of the song or the composition. The two types of copyright in a song come from publishing rights and rights. The following are the different types of royalties generated by both. Publishing, print, and grand rights. Under master and performer rights, audiovisual master performance, ancillary royalties, digital and home taping royalties, master right use on the synchronization side. So now I want to, and as we go through all of these different types of royalties, please feel free to ask questions. Open dialogue. I want this to be really informal and helpful for you. So you don't have to wait till the end. If anybody else, by all means, come up to the mic and ask away. So who here is signed up for SOCAN? Okay. Mark, you're not signed up for SOCAN? Okay. So with SOCAN, it's a performing right. And SOCAN basically, one royalty and agency or society that I think most people actually know about. But I think one of the things that falls through for people that are signed up to SOCAN, I hear this from the SOCAN staff all the time, is that if you're a touring act, you have to, in order to get your royalties from your live shows, you actually have to tell them about your live shows. You have to prove that you played the live show and that it actually happened. So I think these are some of the things that actually fall off the table a bit. How many of you tour and or upload your shows and collect the royalties that are there? One person, two people. Awesome. Because that part, and if you have been playing shows and you haven't been doing that, I'd suggest you go there because they have a list of people that that they're looking to pay, but they can't pay you if they can't sort of connect. SOCAN is the one that most people understand. So I want to talk a little bit about what types of royalties can you collect. The royalties available are constantly changing based on the current royalty landscape. The following is a list of the various types of royalties to be collected: copying, blank tape levy, and audiovisual. So the types, there's a lot of different types, but there's a lot in a lot of the different agencies. Basically, for instance, they call it blank tape levy or home taping, but it's called private copying more generally today. How many of you know how that royalty is actually generated? Nobody? Okay, so the private copying is based on when you buy a blank CD, the royalty is already built into the price tag of that. And then it gets paid out to various agencies that collect it on your behalf. So places like SOCAN actually plays private copying. The CMRRA, which stands for Canadian Musical Reproduction Rights Agency, they also collect private copying. Now, if you're signed up to SOCAN already, chances are they're probably already it. So when you go to CMRRA, they'll ask you if you want to sign up. Let's say you check them both off and you're not really sure. One of them will contact you and say, which one do you want to be with? So you'll never make a mistake in that sense. What's the difference between the two agencies? Yeah. Well, the CMR actually, they mechanical royalties, and it's a reproduction. SOCAN collects performance royalties, which is a royalty that is earned by a broadcast. So private copying, the reason they both collect both is because when you buy that blank CD, the way they calculate the royalty, it's based on airplay and sales, right? So that's why both agencies can actually collect on your behalf. But only one can claim it. So that's why they'll contact you if you sign up for both. CMRRA is when you sell CDs, and it's basically a reproduction, like when you get your CDs manufactured. It's and basically all of the CMR collects on behalf of the publisher. SOCAN, on the other hand, collects on behalf of the publisher and the songwriter. And with SOCAN, it's interesting because if you sign a publishing deal, SOCAN will never pay the publisher your writer's share. Basically, you will always get your writer's share directly from SOCAN. But to get your publishing share, they will pay the publisher, and then the publisher will pay you what percentages of that. That's why sometimes you'll hear the term 200%. Nothing is always 100%, but there's to it.
Sorry, if we were to self-publish, we are both of those people?
You are. Songwriter, right? Because with SOCAN it costs $50, I think, a one-time fee to join as a publisher. So unless you're signing other acts yourself, you can just collect 100% of the writer's share and you'll be covered. With CMR Array, if you're basically you want to sign up, but you want to exclude your masters from the collection because you don't want to pay CMR Array a fee to come to you to say you have to pay yourself, if that makes sense, right? So always exclude your own masters. But if you get on a compilation, they'll go and chase the royalties down for that compilation. So it's still a good idea to sign up, even if you release your own records independently. It's still a good idea to sign up because they can catch things. I had a client once that I think we caught like $23,000 that hadn't been paid out to them because they were on like an Edgefest compilation, and they had no idea. Because their distributor, at the time, they were just a small potato in the whole scheme of things. And so it fell through the cracks until we found it. And so that paid for their record. So they were pretty with that. How many of you know about, how many of you know what a neighboring right is? Okay. Nobody else knows? No. Neighboring right is basically when you guys play on masters, whether you're a producer and you play a guitar track or you play, different piano parts or things like that, or you sing backup, or you record, you play guitar, bass, or whatever instrument it is, that earns you a royalty once that album or that record has been released and either online or wherever it gets broadcast. It creates a neighboring right or a royalty for neighboring rights. So there's an agency that collects that money and then pays it out to other agencies that you sign up for as a musician, and depending on how many, depending on the broadcast of that particular or master, you earn a royalty, but don't think it comes out of your friend's pocket. It doesn't. It comes from the broadcasters. So basically, it's a good idea. The two agencies that you would sign up for, and either one is fine, is ACTRA Rax or MROC. And if anybody was in Corner Brook, Julia Train, who runs the MROC side of things, she was on the publishing panel with me. So you may have met her. Neighboring rights, there's also, keep in mind, neighboring rights also gets paid out for audiovisual royalties that you may have. So if you release a video, basically the video has your master embedded in it, obviously, and so that also can create a neighboring right, mechanical and private copying. So there's lots of all these different agencies that you'll see on those sheets that I left over there for you guys to take home. A lot of these will cross over. So a lot of times people think that, they're already signed up to one agency, but what they don't know is, that there are many other agencies that actually pay out a different type. It's still a neighboring right, but it's for your video as opposed to your master, or your master's embedded in the video and therefore another royalty is generated on top of what you earn just for playing on it. How many of you know or signed up for any of the agencies that are listed on there? And for the people online, I'll actually read them out. Agencies are Connect Music, which deals with audiovisual licensing, MROC, and RACS, which is under ACTRA. Those two pay out neighboring rights for the performer. Sound Exchange pays out lead performer and master owner. SOCAN as pays out the broadcast. CMRRA pays out mechanical royalties. Their counterpart in the UK, if you are releasing albums overseas, is MCPS. And PRS is the SOCAN equivalent in the UK, and they basically joined forces. So it would be like if CMRRA and SOCAN joined forces. So it's MCPS, PRS is where you would go there. Although be careful about that one, because although they don't charge a fee at CMRRA in Canada, they do charge quite a large fee in the UK. So unless you've released anything there, I think it's £250. So it's quite expensive. PPL you might have heard of, and that basically MROC and ACTRA both have reciprocal agreements. So if you sign up to the, they can collect your royalties overseas. But you should let them know whenever you get something released in a different territory, because then they can go and ask their counterparts to see if there's anything there for you. AARC is private copying in the US. So they'll collect for music companies or labels and for the lead artist or band. If you're a band and you share, you're all considered, you know. So does anybody have any questions so far or anything? Yes?
I want to get him on my
Okay. We're going to put you on the spot.
I'm just now getting my act together with Connect Music, and I've only given them my personal catalog. But if they're doing neighboring rights, and I'm a performer on other people's, like if I played guitar on a guy's recording that I produced, do I need to give them that as well, or is it just for the artist?
Yes, that's where your repertoire comes in. A lot of people will sign up, and Patrick, did that come clear? Did that come through clear? A lot of people will sign up and get registered, but they won't. Then they'll think they're done. Repertoire, because they need to connect.
Right. But
So if you played on other people's tracks, you would just fill out the form the same way you would for your own.
Right.
But when it asks for like first maker, or just have to tell them who owns the master and all of that.
Gotcha. All right.
Tour is really, really important.
And if I do that with Connect, is MROC kind of
Connect is for your master. It's for
Right.
master ownership. So if you don't own the master or co-own it with somebody,
okay.
yeah. So if you're talking about just performance,
Right.
then you'll be covered with MROC and or act.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood that question.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. With the audio visual, it's whoever owns gets the. That's why the different agents the same. The private copying or the broadcast mechanical or straight ahead license. It's because they're talking about your audio visual as opposed to your master. Anybody else have any other questions on that? That's a good one for, I think, a lot of the local musicians in this province to sign up for to start with is either MROC or RACS, because you've probably on quite a few records, especially if you're producing And the thing I should talk about with producers, just while we're here, is with Sound Exchange, because they only pay the lead performer and the owner, there is background as well. So if you played, sometimes as a producer, if you can't, because you know how sometimes it's not in the liner notes, if you instruments on that, they give you production credit, but they don't necessarily say anywhere that you played something. Sometimes you just need to get permission, and then you'll get that part of that 20%. And with neighboring rights, the lead gets 80%, and the background performer gets splits 20 with whoever else is a background performer on that particular album. So if you're a band and you want to split the royalty, you definitely should list the entire every band member as lead, and then you'll split the 80, right? But anybody that came in and played background, or your producer played background, then they would split the 20 with whoever else was on that master.
I feel like that would work. Sorry. There are 6 of us in Waterfront Fire. 80 divided by 6 is less than 20%. If we had one other guy who is that collecting, how would that work?
The same way. It's up to the band. It's if you guys want to split it 6 ways and call it lead, or if you want to, it's totally up to you. That's how the split works for the agency. So if there's a background performer, they would get 20%. It was your choice to have lead, right? To split it as a group, as opposed to the lead singer getting the 80. So it's just fair practice, right? So let's go back to the questions. What makes me eligible? If you own your own copyright, publishing, or your own master, that qualifies you. If you've sang or played on a master, as we just talked about, either as a feature performer or a background performer. If you did a duet with somebody, or that would be a feature performance, and then you would split the 80% with whoever the artist was, the lead performer. We've already talked about the audio visual, but and here's another question. But doesn't the money just come to me automatically by check? That's what a lot of people have asked. Royalties generated by your activity are not going to appear on your doorstep like magic. You need to inform each collective of your activities for each territory they have been released in order for you to collect the money or generate revenue streams. Repertoire updates are mandatory in order for the applicable agency to be able to release the royalties. So that's a really important detail, because a lot of people, like I said before, they just sign up and then nobody has the repertoire, so they can't match the song and to whoever it belongs to. We can talk about sync licensing for a little bit. Does everybody know what synchronized licensing is? Sync is basically when you get a song placed in film or TV or a game or anything like that, where they sync the music to the visual. So it can be your video, it can be your video getting played in the background, it can be anything like that. And basically there are 2 sides to sync. There's the master and then there's the publishing. So sometimes a music supervisor will say, can I clear both sides, or are both sides cleared? That's what they mean. Do you own the master, or is the master clear? And also, is the publishing 100% clear? So, that's really important for music supervisors, because they don't they need to know right off the top, because they usually, when they're going in to lock in a track to whether it's TV or trailer or whatever, they need to know, and they always come to the music. A lot of times they come to the music last because they're working everything else out. So they kind of need to know if they can clear it right away. If there's going to be any publishing issues, you have to let them know right away, because otherwise it can be quite messy, and they don't like that, and that can be one of the most lucrative streams if you can get it. So I feel like we through a lot of this stuff. I'd love to open the floor up to questions. Are there any questions coming in online, Jen?
Not right now, no.
Okay.
Just because you're that good.
All right. It just okay.
I got it.
We released a record in August, and I'm just wondering what... We've already registered for SOCAN, so I'm just wondering for us. There's all these options. There's a lot of information here. What do I do next? What's my next step?
You're registered for SOCAN?
That's the only one.
And that's the only one? I would say if you released it live, do you have any airplay? Any
Some.
activity?
Yeah. We were paid out from SOCAN once so far, yeah.
But that's for a different type.
I guess it was broadcasting in that case. We had a little bit of
You got
radio
some airplay,
yeah.
right? The broadcast, which is different than SOCAN, I would suggest register with CMRRA. It's a really simple form to fill out. There's a royalty called the Broadcast Mechanical, and the Broadcast Mechanical is on top of what you get from SOCAN. Because basically when radio stations get serviced, they get serviced digitally. As soon as they download that drive, that's a reproduction, and you earn a royalty by that. The only way you can collect that Broadcast Mechanical is through an agency like CMRRA. You can't go directly to the broadcaster to get it. So I would suggest that would be the second one that you should do, because that one's also time sensitive. So as they're cleaning out their logs, as they're, connecting everybody's, claim, if you haven't signed up yet and have to close that year, it will actually automatically go to whoever else is signed up if they can't find you. So that'd probably be the second one I would. Then I would probably sign up for the neighboring rights. So I'd go to MROC or ActraRax, Sound Exchange as well. Do you have any online activity?
A little bit,
Like satellite radio or anything like that, CBC?
Yeah, we're on some websites, some live streaming sites. I'm not sure how many plays are there,
Then definitely do MROC and or the neighboring rights one.
Which one, MROC or...
Either or, they're both good. I find that the ACTRA, because it's Rax is actually the company that collects it, but they work under ACTRA. I find that they have a lot of the sort of top tier artists, and they don't necessarily go after the sort of the young musicians that are coming up. They haven't. But MROC does, they spend a lot of time in communities just like this. Like, Julia came all the way to Corner Brook, and ACTRA doesn't do that quite as much, but they're both great companies, so either or is fine. So whichever one, but either one is fine. And then Sound Exchange is separate, so you should do that one right after that. Because anything that, Sound Exchange is kind of the neighboring rights for the U.S., because they didn't sign the Rome Convention, which was the agreement that pays out, or that, the tariff that was lobbied for the neighboring right. And so the U.S. doesn't actually collect it. So Sound Exchange was born to kind of, that's their version of it, kind of. And it collects for the performance on a master, And if you get satellite airplay, that can actually be quite lucrative as well. Everybody takes a commission. Yeah, all of these different agencies take a little bit of commission. Some of them are, some of them how much they take, and others don't. Others out of marketing, but there's always some sort of fee. But I always think it's worth it because, you know, to give up a little bit to get a lot, or, you know, if you don't sign up, then you're getting nothing. You're getting 100% of nothing. So it's better to pay these fees and have them administrate your stuff properly and just go direct to the agency. There's also companies like the one that I just came from, Entertainment Business Affairs. They also are, if you want a one-stop shop where you can go, you know, get grant writing done, get your royalties taken care of, work visas if you're touring in the States a lot. There are companies like that actually can do that. But I would say do it yourself first until you get to the level where you're too busy touring and doing all that, and then you want to let go of the paperwork. But learn it first so that you know if somebody's doing a good job. It's Entertainment Business Affairs, or EBA Inc. Yeah, they're really great. They lots of young people working there, and they know what they're doing, and they understand everything. So, also have and it's all a la carte too. So if you're already signed up with SOCAN, you can exclude that. If you're signed up with CMRA, you can exclude that. They'll just collect whatever you're not doing or whatever you need help with. They also pay out mechanicals too. So if anybody is in that position where you're paying out mechanicals, they take that on too. I don't know to what level they're at. They were just working that out when I left the company. So, but you give them a call if you need that assistance as well.
There's a question online.
Okay.
Question. What are the reasons a Canadian artist should register with ASCAP?
There's really no reason to register with ASCAP unless you're at the level of, you know, Jay-Z or something. SOCAN collects all of your international royalties on your behalf. They have reciprocal agreements with, because they're a society, they actually do talk to the other societies around the world. Pardon me. The agencies are a little different for the other types of royalties, but with the societies, they're pretty good at collecting all of your royalties for you. So there would be no need to sign directly to ASCAP. Okay. Just talk to your local rep, Tim Hardy. Amazing Tim Hardy. Does everybody, is there any other questions? Is there... Okay. Oh, Patrick's got it.
So I might not understand fully, but you said that Sound Exchange was the American equivalent because they didn't sign some sort of...
All the other territories around the world signed the Rome Convention, which is neighboring rights. So they lobbied to government and they got it passed, but the U.S. refused to sign it because the broadcasters are pretty powerful there. And that's who pays it out. So, but they created Sound Exchange because anytime you play on a master, that's when that master gets broadcast, online, radio, any of that stuff, that's how the royalty is generated. So Sound Exchange, if you do get a lot of satellite radio or, you know, it's Sirius, XM, like those kinds, it can actually be quite lucrative depending. We had one client that weren't signed up for anything and they were kind of performance arty kind of band, and their first check was $20,000. So you never know. I'm not saying everybody's going to get $20,000, so don't run home and think that, but every penny counts. And you know, once you get this stuff registered, then it's just upkeep. Then it's just making sure that every time you release a record or every time you play on somebody else's record, that you've registered that repertoire so that the funds.
So I go and make my own music video, and apparently there's money to be had for that.
If it gets broadcast.
Okay.
That's the key for all of this, is that you do have to have activity, right? So it has to be released in order to generate the royalties, and you have to have some activity. Otherwise, if you just make it and it sits in your basement, then nothing's ever going to get generated. But if you make your own videos, you should register that to Connect, because Connect does it for your video. So the broadcast mechanical, the neighboring rights, all of these different types of royalties. Every time you release and your video is a master, it generates the royalties again, right? So, and that one can be quite lucrative too, depending on where it gets broadcast. Like, if it's a local pub and they show videos and yours happens to get played, that's generating a royalty right there, broadcast mechanical, for your video. Or if you get added to, depending on the genre, if it's some of the pay-for-TV channels, then it gets generated, money gets generated there. Much like if your CD gets played in a restaurant, SOCAN collects that money for you. It's the same thing when your masters get broadcast as well, like your videos, right? Or if you were on... Pretty exciting stuff, right?
Actually, I'm gonna keep the question going. Actually,
Sure.
so if we play live on a TV broadcast, where does that fall under? Is that
That's SOCAN.
That's just a performance.
That would be SOCAN, yeah.
Okay.
It's if they played, because your video is a master. So if they play video in the, that's generating a master revenue or a royalty, right? You see the difference? Yeah. Because with SOCAN, it's about performance, so it's about live performance. But with your video, that's performance, even if you played live in the video, it's a master. So it's a different royalty on top of what you would get. Same with the broadcast, with the radio station, their CD and downloading it into their hard drive. That's like manufacturing. So they basically need to pay royalty because they might send it out to their sister stations across country digitally. And each time they do that, they have to pay a royalty. So that's why the broadcast mechanical was created. But that's on top of, it's a mechanical, not a performance. So it's different.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Unless it's out of the fog. I don't know the deal with out of the fog, but if it's out of the fog you're referring to, I think, I don't know if anybody else here knows exactly what the deal is with out of the fog, but you do sign something so that, I don't out of the fog performances.
It's like the same as kind of like college radio, I think, in that
Yeah.
sense where it's a kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
It's
Maybe other
not that
ones.
it's non-for-profit. It's just it's too hard to police. They because they don't see with major radio stations, they have a playlist, so it's easy to calculate the royalty, right? With SOCAN or with the CMRRA broadcast mechanical, because it's not perfect or scientific, but it's definitely a format that they can do it. With college, a different song off your album every day. It's just too hard to regulate. But it's definitely worth it, And it once you register it once, then it's like, it's like you in their new system. Like when you register, when you go to sign up to Factor and you create your portals, it's like, it takes so long the first time because there's so much to do. It's the same thing when you're registering your royalties, but once it's done, then it's upkeep. So it's a lot to manage, and I encourage it. And if anybody needs help, all you have to do is Patrick and book an appointment. We like appointments. And because, if our boardroom isn't being used, I'm happy to help if you run into a snag. Matt's already done it. He's like, come to the office. And for sure, that's, you know, we're going to be creating station in the second beside mine, and all you guys have to do if you want help with something or even setting up your factor portal, Jen and I can both help you with that. Just book an appointment so that there isn't like 20 people sitting on top of you at the. We're more than happy to do it if you want to come to the office just so that you can ask a question whenever it hits you, because I know that that's what happens. People start the thinking, I'm today. And then you hit a snag and you're like, I'll come back to that later. And then it never gets done. So I encourage anybody to, like I say, come and use our expertise, come down to the office, you know, book an appointment. Our boardroom sits empty most of the time. So we're happy to be there to help. And we're just right next door, so you can just, you know, come over and ask a question. I encourage it.
I got another online question.
Okay.
Okay, another online question. Do you have to let SOCAN or the other agency you have a one-off for any gigs outside of Canada? And how do they know how often you play?
You have to inform these agencies activity. It's your responsibility as the publisher, as the performer. They just don't, you know, it's not like they can read your minds. So it is up to you to inform them of everything. And if there's stuff going on, like let's say you got your song placed in, I don't know, a Disney, something like that. Heard back from them. So call your local agent or call the head office and let them know about it, and maybe they can help you track it down if you're not hearing back from anybody. All of these agencies are there to work for you. Once you sign up with them, they are there. It's their job to help you, but they can't help you if they don't know what's going on. So you.
Can I expand on that question?
Yep.
If you perform outside of Canada, will SOCAN collect live performance for those shows?
Yeah, but you have to register it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and you have to. They still have it where you have to prove that you actually played. So if that's a ticket stub, like some kind of
Like a poster or anything. Yeah.
show poster. Yeah.
And isn't there still the whole you got to charge so much? And I believe there's the whole you need to charge $6 for the venue in order for it to you'd be able to get back those SOCAN dollars. And I know, like Tim said before, show posters, set lists, even outs of events from like social media and stuff like that would be sufficient for the most part.
Yeah, it just has to. It's a good idea to social media. You know, and it's somebody that said, great show last night or anything like that that sort of proves that it happened. That's what they're looking for. Or get the bar owner to sign off on your set list or something like that. Anything like that.
I have another question.
Okay. Okay.
Another question from somebody in Corner Brook, which is cool. Is there any mechanism for YouTube plays, or do any of the organizations offer that type of tracking?
Yeah, YouTube. I'm not as versed in that as, but there are, and I know that if you Business Affairs, they actually work with another company that can kind of track that for you. So you could give them a call if you want. See if I can remember the number there. 416-926-1966 is EBA's number.
I can't remember my mom's number.
And they can talk to you about how that all works. It's all based on advertising, and they work with a company that there are different tiers, I think, and basically they're at the top of the tiers. So if you sign up with them, generate more revenue for you. And there are other companies that do this as well, but EBA is the only one I know of. So if you call them, and just ask for the royalties department. They can probably do that. I know that they're also starting to try to for streaming. It's pretty low. I think we're one of the lowest countries in terms of the penny rate and what we get paid. So I know there's a lot of lobbying going on regarding raising that to standard. I'm not exactly sure where they're at with that right now, but I know that the other MIAs and us as well are sort of lobbying behind them to get that raised so that we're up to par with the rest of the world.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Between all these agencies, like some of them, I'm going to hazard a guess, most of them you would sign up for as an individual. At what point are you registering as an entity or as a band? Like,
well, it depends on, like, if you guys all own the masters, wherever you're registering the master, you would register as or a band. For the same with the lead part, depending on how your band is set up. If there isn't a lead singer per se who would collect all the lead and you share everything, then you would also register there as an entity. But for the sideman gigs, or if you played on somebody else's record or did backup, register as a solo performer or background or whatever it happens to be. Any other topics? You got there, Jen?
It is 7:53.
Okay. At 8 o'clock, we were going to open it up to different topics, different ideas. We can continue on publishing if you guys want to, but I kind of wanted to open the floor to everybody online or present to talk about ideas that you may have or challenges that you face. You know, I want us to all kind of and trying to face the challenges that Newfoundland and Labrador face more so than any other places. And I want to hear your ideas, you know. Okay.
Another online question. Does what you get paid for playing in a bar affect royalties and revenue in any way, or are they separate things?
They're totally separate things. You know, what you negotiate with the with whoever books the bar is a separate fee. A royalty is generated from that performance. Nothing to do with the set fees. With the exception of SOCAN, you do have to charge $6 minimum at the door in order to collect on the live performance. But other than that, they are two separate things. Yeah, so I wanted to open up the floor and see if there's anything anybody wants to talk about. Any ideas? Anything that you would like to see? No, it doesn't have to be rights and royalties. It can be anything. Like, you know, I guess we could talk, Jen, a little bit about the fact that we're going to be revamping the entire program. Trying to make them up a little more current with what's going on in today's market. We'll probably be doing that in top of the year, right? Yeah. For launch, probably first thing, new fiscal, right?
Yes. Talk a little bit about that. So when the new fiscal year comes in for April, all the funding programs for both the travel and the recording programs will be changed. We're going to do pretty much a full revamp. maybe some discussion topics to think about. And one of my biggest suggestions for the recording program specifically was to change the format in which the applications were received. So to switch from a hard copy format to an electronic submission process, kind of like the way we switched our awards voting, so that way we could outsource to juries outside of the province. The biggest challenge for me with the recording programs is to try and find jurors who are qualified but who also don't have a conflict of interest within the music community, because we all know how tight and close we all are. So just curious, because I know a lot of people in the room have accessed these programs, if this is a change that you think like the membership would be interested in, or...
Time going through the process, so
we've actually I know over this past year I've sent 4 emails to the members asking for feedback on the funding programs and haven't received not one email back. But I'm really that we'll start receiving some type of feedback. The results come out back within the community. When everyone hanging out at the bar having a beer, and there's things that are said, and there's opinions, and we want to hear these things, and we want to be able to review them within our committees and the board, so that we can come out and do what's best for our members. That's what we're here for. So absolutely. So please, any and all of that feedback is greatly encouraged. Is there
Get a lot easier for maybe newer bands or artists to apply, because it make it very clear what they need to submit in a very linear format. This is what you need to do. Because I think for a lot of people, when you're submitting a grant, I know that when I was just starting out at like 18 or 19, we put in an app and we had no idea what we were doing, and we didn't know if we could ask or who to talk to, because I think a couple of the guys from the West Coast, and they didn't know anything about MusicNL, and I didn't know any musicians. So I think that's one thing. And something come across a couple of times is maybe, and this is probably pretty controversial, but look at maybe opening up a sound recording grant that can be used outside of Newfoundland, just because a lot of bands, I think, will be able to access super high quality studios, maybe extra time engineers, but our grants are restricted to Newfoundland, which I understand, obviously, because our studios, our producers benefit from that. But even with our last record with Chris, like, we could have went to Halifax, or maybe, and we had potential opportunities there.
But you still can.
Can we?
Under the programs, you technically, yes, we do highly encourage all the members, stay within the Newfoundland community and the MusicNL membership. But in saying that, if there is a studio outside of the province that you would like to record in, it's still eligible. You can still apply. You can still access the funding. Okay. It's just those particular receipts wouldn't be an eligible expense. For example, like Chris, a few years ago, we went down and did the whole Willie Nelson studio thing. He still accessed the funding. Yeah. It's just those particular receipts weren't eligible. Yeah. In saying that, it's still a point that we can bring back and discuss for sure. Just to have those as eligible expenses. But it's just the recording studio specifically. So if it's mixing, mastering, manufacturing, producer fees, engineer fees, all those can technically be non-members or outside of the province entities.
One of the things, though, be careful about that in terms of things like manufacturing, for instance. It's not going to be manufactured any better in Toronto than it is here, and you're probably going to get a better price break here than you would in Toronto. So always keep those things in mind. I mean, I get the whole production thing and sound and everything else, but that's just something to keep in mind. Maybe you will definitely, like Jen said, take that into consideration, but sometimes maybe you could do 2 different places, It doesn't always have to be recorded in the same place, too.
Hey, I got a question. You guys were just talking about receipts. We can't claim stuff from taxes, can we?
Sorry?
Like, for doing an album, can that be claimed on taxes? Really?
You are a business.
So what what I paid for my album, I can. But do I have to claim everything then that I've? Oh, okay.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you should be able to claim everything if your business is music, anything related to that, you should be able to claim even if it's just, even if you're self. I would.
I'm self-employed. I work at the hospital, but.
Yeah, but you can still like had a regular job. There's still a place in your tax return where you can claim self-employment. So as a musician, you are self-employed, even if you have a regular gig.
I'm just wondering.
It's a special place in your personal income tax return where you can claim self-employment. So anything that, where you're responsible for your own taxes and your own.
I don't want to claim what I took in. Can I claim what I paid out towards an album?
Only if you, yeah. Yeah. You have to claim both sides, basically. You can't just claim your expenses and not claim the income.
But if your music business is technically in the red, and
Yeah.
most times it is, right, as a hobby, then that still works out better for you.
You should talk to a business accountant or, a music accountant or somebody about that. Okay.
Somebody's asking, well, there's two, so I'll ask this one first. Plays a benefit show for free. Does the band get the SoCan things back from free gig?
No.
Nope.
No, it has to be $6 cover, right? If
But what if the benefit show is charging, but the band isn't making money? But the benefit show is charging at the door.
musicians, anybody have an answer for that one?
Counts. Like you can negotiate your price.
Grab the mic.
Use the microphone for online people.
I would imagine it works the same way as not getting an upfront master to be used, but then getting a royalty on the back end. You're not getting you're negotiating a price of zero for your performance, but you performed at a cover, so you might be sharing like 8 other bands though. But
Yeah, it's a good point. I would call SoCan and ask them because they would be the ones paying it out, so, or collecting it on your behalf, rather. So, second question?
The second question is about the process of picking our jury members. Will I take this?
Yep.
Our process for picking jury members is kind of like a leak down from our board, for example, and this is from Caroline Fowler online. Thanks, Caroline. Caroline, I should say. Wonderful singer. So the jury members are actually come from suggestions from our board of directors, which they pick jury members from all around the world. For example, for our awards for this year, we had jury members literally all around the world: Australia, Europe, the States, Canada. We just didn't have jurors in Newfoundland. So for our awards, they're picked from by our board of directors, and they're music industry professionals. The board members need to submit full biographies, along with information people, so they are professional people. For our sound recording program, where the jury actually meets physically, those individuals are Newfoundlanders. They need to all sign full conflict of interest form. And of course, again, as we know, tight-knit community, everybody knows everybody. So we will our program, and again, this is most likely going to change. We say that a conflict of interest appears if the individual financially benefits in any way, shape, or form from the project. Because obviously people are going to know people within the jury. Juries are approved by the board also. We normally will try and do one professional musician, so obviously a musician who's toured, recorded, accessed programs. Try and do some type of industry professional, whether it be producer, promoter, media person. Then there's always somebody from the board represented on there too, and then I then facilitate the juries, and I keep things pretty even keel because I want everyone to get the funding always. Everybody love everybody, but that's how the process is for jury members. Thanks, Carol-Ann, for the question, and again, open to lots of suggestions with our revamp that's coming up.
Yeah, we really, really encourage everybody to email in their suggestions on programs you'd like to see that we've never tried. Like anything you think would be valid, and we'll take everything into consideration because that's the next step for us, which you can access.
Jen, you mentioned that there's some potential changes to the touring aspect of or funding program. You did say that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What sort of changes are on the docket?
We don't really know yet.
No. In all honesty, that program seems to work the best. It's the one where we get the least amount of complaints and issues. Both market access and professional development of the programs, works fairly well. I would say the biggest issue that I would hear is that people would like to see in-province tours eligible. That seems to be one thing that people seem to want a lot that we don't offer. It is the market access program, the government, the whole idea when it was first developed. Obviously, the government was aware of the fact that here in Newfoundland, it's much more expensive for Newfoundland artists and bands to tour than anywhere else across the country. So the government, the market access program, giving artists the ability to access markets outside of the province. So I don't know what changes will happen there. Again, we're open to suggestions. Maybe the provincial thing might come into effect, or maybe people want to see different eligibility, like what constitutes as a tour. Right now we say 6 out of province dates in at least 3 different municipalities. Maybe that number is going to go up. Maybe it's going to go down. I could probably see the actual maximum amounts that artists can access might move. Maybe it'd be more, maybe it'd be less. Maybe the maximum amount that an artist can receive throughout the run of a fiscal year might change because, the programs are getting much more competitive. Our artists are doing great, which is fantastic, and everyone's touring and doing great things, but obviously the pots of money are running out, so it could be things along those lines. But again, open to all suggestions.
Any consideration for the amount of capital up front with any of those programs that you'd offer an awarded band?
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely talked about too. NLIC gives their money up front. So around the board table, that has definitely come up. Where somebody will apply to the programs, and then they'll receive the money up front and then submit their report after. It works with NLIC. And they seem to have no problems with it. For them in particular, if say somebody doesn't go through with their project or that they don't do the tour, they just can't apply to NLIC again. So it's it's just the way that it's going to run. I know that came down from government specifically, which I know everyone's going to hate, is they don't want to do as many meetings. So right now we take all the applications that were gathered, and we meet once a month, back to the applicant. Sometimes it might take 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes somebody go on tour and come back before they even know. There was suggestions that we only do those meetings probably every second month, or even, like year. So we'd be moving to probably more of like a factor model or something, where there'd be more strict deadlines instead of what we do now, which is fairly open. At least 2 weeks before you go, which works out for a lot of people. Opportunities, showcase opportunities, or tour opportunities pop up. So again, if you would like to see the way that it is, or if you agree that maybe there should deadlines. We want to hear that feedback.
With regards to the touring grant, I don't know how complicated it could probably get quite complicated, but sort of encourage people to set and live by a business plan, you know, so that like someone like me, I guess, to avoid a situation like this, like if I'm going to do a tour of the East Coast, I can't count how many tours of the East Coast I've done, so there's no reason why I'm competing with these guys for their first tour. You know, I should be disqualified almost, you know what I mean? So like
So different tiers?
like different tiers or like a graduation type of process, you know, like if I'm still going for funding for the same tour that I've done for the past 10 years, I'm abusing the system almost, you know,
Yeah.
or if I'm still not making money after touring that market all those years, like, you know, perhaps I need to look at what I'm doing closer, you know,
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
you know,
Yeah.
just something to prevent.
It's actually
people-
one of the things I talked to Factor a lot about too. Prior to them changing their rules, was that nice to see different tiers so that you're competing with your peers in the sense that, you know, if you're just starting out, that's who you're competing
Yeah.
with. Then there's another level, and I kind of like that idea. But
I guess it would also enable people to compete for money on you know, if I'm doing a national tour
on a
then-
different level,
yeah, then I wouldn't be looked at side by side against someone who's doing their first or second tour.
yeah.
You know, that might be,
And it would also show artist development, that you're moving into new and the actual artist development.
Yeah, I do think there is like some value, and obviously, you know, especially accessing one market, maybe a you know, to really solidify, you know, because obviously the first time you're going into any market, you're not going to get a lot of people. You hope that the second time you go in and the third time you go in, that your audience is building.
Right.
But even right now in the funding programs, if you're handing in applications going to the exact same markets, especially the exact same venues, you know, your revenue isn't building, your sales aren't going up, then the committee is going to cut you back, or they're just going to decline the application.
All right.
But there was discussion too of you know, coming up with some type of grading system, the difference between an emerging artist and an established artist, and maybe developing the programs around, you know, what is the definition of an emerging artist and established artist, and then the amounts that they can access and the criteria that would be specific to them. But the definitions of emerging can be
It would be
really
quite-
sticky.
of course, yeah.
Any other topics of interest or discussions, ideas? Sure. Somebody, does that reach over there?
Okay, so I don't do any of the categories, but I've been a member of MusicNL for over 20 years, I'd say, just simply because I believe it needs support, and everyone who listens to music should be supporting it. So I've heard all.
We applaud you for that.
Thank you. What I do is my own DAW, and I've got the Studio One. I'm doing some home recording and gradually learning all this. And I've taken part in workshops over the years, and songwriter workshops and business workshops, and I believe that I learn a lot more by keeping my mouth shut than actually opening it. So generally stay silent. But some of the things, if you're revamping the programs, what I'd like to see is a couple of things that have come in my mind that I can recollect is some method. I don't know if it would be like a bulletin board or something like that, where somebody who, I know I can turn a phrase, but I couldn't work out a royalty scheme to save my life, that sort of thing. So how could I meet a manager or a producer or that sort of thing, and maybe get together and jam with people. Like I do kind of folky things, but you know, I'm also a big Crazy Horse fan, that sort of thing, you know, and
I'm not following.
I don't know, mixers or
You mean more social events? Is that what you're suggesting, or? I'm
not
sure
so
what the
much that,
question
but
is.
it's not so much a question as a suggestion for maybe a broader range of networking sessions.
We do plan on doing, like, this is the first one of,
Yeah,
like,
and halls,
I'm
so.
very happy you came. We do want to do a lot more of this type of networking opportunity. Like tonight, for instance, at 8:30, we're going to have an open mixer so that one-on-one too, so that it's not all just,
Yeah.
you know, us sitting up here and, you know, you can ask Patrick a question if you want, you know. He'd be more than happy to answer you, or not. Have more events like this and more on a regular basis. Different themes, different topics. We'd also love suggestions on that kind of thing. If you know, we want to bring in more experts, both locally and outside, just to, you know, bring in some new ideas, some fresh, you know, opinions. You know, you never know what we can do. I mean, one of my favorite panels that we did in Cornwall was the one that Mark and Scott did, where they showed us the processing of a live mix and to a sync that got placed in Rookie Blue, was it? Yeah. It was see that, you know, to see it almost backwards and to show the process of how they got to where they got. We want to do a lot more unique and innovative things. So if anybody's got suggestions for that, by all means, you know, let us know. And I did want to mention too, online, if you would like a copy of all the agencies and that I said out loud and that I've passed around this room here, if you want one, just email me or send an to info@musicnl.ca and we'll email a copy back to you so that you can have that as well. Or if you need help, I mean, I'm a phone call away, so if you can't make it into St. John's or into the office, if you have any questions, you can email me or you can call me, and, you know, anytime for help with any of that, or even, you know, factor setup, any kind of help with that. If you're not here in St. John's, I'm a phone call away or an email away. So is Jen. And so is Patrick.
May I ask?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. One of the things I was hoping to get out of the weekend in Corner Brook sort of happened like way after hours, right? That sort of like open jam session, right? But there's no way for anybody to collaborate musically with any other musicians other than these like frowned upon after hours behind closed doors kind of parties.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who's
the rest
frowning?
Of the hotel. but so as a suggestion for an event to have at some point in the future would be
Like a writing camp, you mean?
or even just let's set up a bunch of instruments, invite MusicNL members and to have fun, and see what happens kind of thing.
Like improv type jam session.
Yeah.
Musical mixer.
Yeah.
Suggestion along those lines, the
Oh.
Folk Arts Council
Microphone. Hold on.
Microphone, please, for the onliners.
along those lines, the Folk Arts Council, I'm not sure if they do it every year but they did do it for a few years. I think they call it Mad Hatter Night, and you register beforehand. You get if they have 50 people registered, well, they'll set up 10 bands of 5 people each that just met each other before or from different genres of music, and just say, okay, 2 weeks from now, everybody show up and play us your 2 or 3 songs, and that gives an opportunity for these people that wouldn't normally have had a chance to jam together to get together and play a few songs, and interesting things can come out of that exposure. So that was useful, I thought.
Thank you.
I've got a suggestion, I guess, or a comment. I think
Okay.
something that would be interesting would be like a mentorship program, where instead of the funding going directly to the artists that may be emerging, I mean, when we were awarded the grant, it was a first for us, and we're still kind of learning what we should be doing. You know, when we make mistakes along the way, we could have been more efficient. We could have released a better record, maybe if we had more mentorship or guidance. So, I mean, if there was even a songwriting mentorship, a music business mentorship program, where instead of the funding going directly to that artist, it goes to the mentor spending time with that developing artist in a one-on-one setting, maybe to work on songwriting or, you know, accessing the industry or, you know, any topic.
All those talks we had at MusicNL weekend, but in a, you know.
Yeah, I guess more streamlined one-on-one individualized process, because it's different for every artist, you know.
Yeah, we can definitely do, even these can turn into that kind of thing, you know, before the open mic, where we have, you know, split off groups, or, you know, you sign up. Maybe it's even, you know, you go off and sit, you know, we can definitely talk about stuff like that. I like that idea. Yeah. I mean, mentoring can come in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. I mean, the three of us are always there to mentor anybody at any level. You know, if you're going on tour, or you're going out of the province, or you're going to for a networking in Toronto. I know tons of people across this country, and even outside of this country. And so if anybody ever needs any help there, like, by all means, please reach out to me. Tell me the nature of your trip, where you're going, who you want to meet, what you'd like to. And I'm happy to help wherever I can. I just helped Matt when he went to with the people that didn't return his calls this time. But I know that it can be tough. You know, you're going to Toronto or Vancouver for a week, and you got to pack all this stuff in all at once. But I'm you know, the people I know are more than happy to help mentor and give back, because they've been blessed to have these fantastic jobs and this amazing career. And so there's a lot of people out there that want to help. So please do feel free to reach out to me anytime.
There's just randomly FYI, there's a couple of really cool, of course, ECMAs is in St. John's in April, and we're going to rock it. It's going to be an awesome event, and we're going to show everyone the best time ever, right? Yeah. But there's some really cool mentorship programs happening through that event. There's ones that are specific to music industry people. So like if you want to be a future manager or something like that, there's really cool ones where you'll do lead up mentorship with established managers. And you actually have to hit these cool, you know, like educational components leading up to the event. And then you mirror the manager throughout the entire event, which is. But then there's other ones for artists specifically where they'll team up bands with different music industry people where you can learn lots of cool things. Just a little FYI there. But on your point, I think originally, especially if we end up switching the recording programs around to an established emerging artist program, maybe you can even be written right into the criteria, especially for an emerging artist program, that it's part of your you know, successful application that you actually up and do mentorship and professional development opportunities. I think would be really beneficial. So great point, Aaron.
Yeah, and I've done those mentoring programs with these in particular, and I learned stuff like from the artists themselves, because they might think of something that I've never. It's a win-win situation. I think those are around, you know, all around.
So we're 25 after. 26 after.
Is there any other questions or comments from anybody online? Anybody online?
Well, Donna Roberts says greetings.
Hi, Donna.
Greetings from Labrador, she says. Excellent.
Well, then maybe we'll break out into the. Thank you, everybody online, for joining us, and thanks for thanks for everybody that came down to the ship. It's very cold out. Appreciative, and we're gonna break off for a little mixer, and then Corey Pike is going to host our open mic night tonight. Hope people will stick around, and we'll have a good time. Thanks, everybody. Woohoo!
Got her?
Yeah.